In episode 43, Schedule Risk Concepts, No Software Needed, we focus on understanding time uncertainty with plain language and simple tools. You can map risk with a whiteboard, sticky notes, and a clear head. The aim is not to replace scheduling applications, but to build shared insight that software later reflects. When teams grasp why time slips, they plan differently, communicate earlier, and recover faster. We will build that intuition step by step, showing how logic comes first, numbers second, and decisions always last. Clear structure turns shifting timelines into manageable choices rather than mysterious delays.
Time uncertainty drives stress because time compresses everything that matters. It squeezes budgets, frays team relationships, and exposes trade-offs that felt distant during planning. People sense the pressure long before dates are officially missed. That stress often leads to shortcuts which cause rework and further delay. The antidote is visibility. When the team sees where uncertainty concentrates, energy moves from worry to action. A visible schedule story reduces speculation, lowers the emotional temperature, and creates space for smart moves that protect delivery without burning out the people doing the work.
Start with network logic before touching numeric ranges. Lay out major activities as cards and connect them with simple arrows that show which task must finish before the next can start. Discuss finish-to-start relationships, overlaps that are truly safe, and any leads or lags the work naturally requires. This conversation surfaces hidden dependencies and risky assumptions faster than any spreadsheet. By insisting on clear logic first, you avoid pouring estimates into a crooked frame. A straight frame carries weight. A crooked one magnifies strain. Logic is that frame.
Once the flow is sketched, validate it. Walk the path forward and backward and ask what would make each arrow break. Look for missing approvals, external handoffs, or ambiguous definitions of done that create silent pauses. Confirm that handoffs include quality checks, because incomplete work travels fast and fails slowly. If an overlap is proposed, state exactly what is safe to start early and what is forbidden. Validation is a short, honest rehearsal of reality. It is cheaper to argue gently at a table than to argue loudly 3 weeks late.
Merge points deserve special scrutiny. A merge point is where several strands of work join and feed a single successor activity. Even if each strand is likely to finish on time, the chance that all finish on time is lower than people expect. This is merge bias in action. Walk each convergence and ask which predecessor is most fragile. Note that criticality shifts as tasks slip, so a path that was secondary may suddenly become decisive. By naming merge points and their fragile predecessors, you position buffers and attention where they actually matter. Buffers transform fragility into resilience when they are explicit and respected. Think in 3 layers. A project buffer protects the final delivery date from the combined variability of the longest chain. Feeding buffers protect critical work from delays in non-critical chains that feed into it. A management buffer lives at a level above the project to absorb organizational turbulence, such as shared resource conflicts or policy reviews. Buffers are not padding. They are negotiated risk capacity that is promised once and spent visibly. Visibility creates discipline. Placing and governing buffers requires lightweight rules. Put the project buffer at the end of the dominant chain, not scattered in small cushions that invite quiet consumption. Place feeding buffers right before a merge, sized to the variability of the incoming strand. Manage buffer burn visibly by tying its consumption to specific causes, not vague phrases like general delay. When a buffer is consumed faster than progress justifies, trigger a review. These rules fit on one page and work without software because they rely on shared awareness, not secret math. Now, size activity ranges from optimistic to pessimistic rather than offering a single date. Ask for a best case that assumes smooth execution, a most credible case based on recent experience, and a worst case that remains plausible without catastrophe. Keep ranges honest by linking them to observable conditions, like availability of a test environment or vendor lead times. Ranges are not an admission of ignorance, they are a realistic description of time as it is lived. When ranges are clear, the path inherits truth from its parts, and decisions inherit courage from that truth. Remember that many tasks are correlated because they share drivers. If 2 activities depend on the same specialist, supplier, or permit, their durations move together. Independent ranges would mislead you into thinking variation cancels out. It does not. Ask which drivers each activity depends on and mark shared ones with a simple symbol. In conversations, treat those groups as a unit. When the driver improves, the group tightens. When the driver degrades, the group stretches. Seeing these families of tasks keeps optimism in check and surfaces practical mitigations. Rework loops and learning curves complicate flow but can be reasoned about verbally. A rework loop occurs when downstream feedback forces upstream correction, then another pass. Name the loop, cap its iterations, and insert a small review buffer at the checkpoint that most often finds defects. Learning curves behave differently. Early tasks run slowly while the team discovers patterns, then later tasks accelerate. Front-load coaching and templates to compress the curve. By acknowledging loops and curves out loud, you prevent them from masquerading as random delay. Differentiate earliest finish from most likely finish, especially at the project level. Earliest finish assumes the optimistic edge of every range and zero friction at merges. It is a calendar mirage. Most likely finish acknowledges that some slippage will occur, buffers will be used, and not every overlap is truly safe. The gap between these two dates is a gift. It tells you the size of the story you need to communicate and the contingency you must reserve. Treat earliest finish as a stretch line, not a promise, and your credibility rises. Calendar and resource constraints shape reality more than most plans admit. Weekends, holidays, and blackout periods erase theoretical capacity. Scarce specialists cannot be in two places at once, even if charts try to place them there. Walk the calendar with the team and mark real availability. Limit concurrent demands on critical skills, not just total hours. A schedule that respects calendars and people is slower on paper but faster in life. This humility reduces last-minute thrash and preserves buffers for true uncertainty rather than predictable conflicts. Near-critical chains deserve watchful attention. These are paths that are not critical today but could become critical with small slips or resource conflicts. Identify them by asking which path would take the crown if the current leader slips by a modest amount. Tag a few early warning indicators, such as late handoffs or queue growth at a testing gate. By scanning near-critical paths each week, you see tomorrow's criticality today. This practice prevents sudden emergencies and keeps buffer burn connected to visible causes. You can narrate likely slippage scenarios verbally without any simulation. Tell the story of a vendor delivery lagging by 1 week, then walk the knock-on effects through merges and buffers. Tell the story of a key engineer splitting attention between 2 strands for 3 days, then ask where the squeeze lands. These stories reveal gaps in handoffs, missing decision points, and brittle overlap assumptions. Spoken scenarios also invite broader participation. People who shy away from charts participate in stories and often supply the detail you most need. Acceleration should be trigger-based, not panic-based. Define specific signals that justify action, such as buffer burn exceeding progress by a set ratio or a near-critical path showing 2 consecutive slips. Pair each trigger with ready options. Options might include swapping sequence to raise learning earlier, shifting reviews to the morning when decision-makers are available, or splitting a work package so the long pole moves independently. Because the options are pre-negotiated, you gain days without drama. Triggers convert emotion into criteria and criteria into momentum. Finally, align stakeholders on feasible dates through transparent negotiation. Show the dominant chain, the buffers, and the assumptions that hold the promise together. Invite challenges, but anchor them in drivers, not wishes. Offer a stretch date with risk conditions that must be met and a committed date that includes honest variability. When everyone sees how the promise is built, trust rises, and so does cooperation when problems surface. Feasible dates are not merely timelines, they are agreements about behavior, staffing, and attention. Clarity in scheduling reduces surprises because it replaces mystery with structure and rumor with evidence. Logic first, then ranges, then buffers, then triggers, all expressed in everyday language the whole team understands. With that order, you can manage time risk on a whiteboard and make better use of any tool later. Projects breathe easier when dates are negotiated in daylight and protected by shared habits. That is the quiet power of schedule risk done well without software. It is not fancy, but it delivers. Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.